When you're chatting with an AI, it feels like someone's there, right? We see what looks like ethics, a personality, even thinking. But is anyone really home? That's what we're going to dig into.
Okay, picture this. A self-driving car's brakes suddenly fail. It's got to make a choice, and fast. Does it swerve and hit a pedestrian who's following the rules? Or does it stay on course and hit a jaywalker? What if the choice is between hitting one person or 5 people? Or a child versus an elderly person? I mean, this isn't just a thought experiment for a philosophy class anymore. This is a real, live programming problem. And boy, does it open up a massive can of worms.
So here's the thing. Before you can tell a machine how to make a moral choice, we have to agree on what the right choice even is. And, well, that's not so easy, is it? So to get some answers, researchers over at MIT came up with a pretty wild idea. They decided to just ask the entire world. They called it the moral machine. Basically, it was this huge online game, or platform, I guess, that threw these impossible self-driving car scenarios at you, again and again. You had to be the judge. And the big idea? To see if they could crowdsource a kind of global rulebook for AI ethics.
And the response? It was absolutely staggering. They ended up collecting 40 million moral decisions. I mean, think about that. Millions of people from 233 different countries chimed in. The sheer scale of it made it one of the biggest studies on global morality ever.
And it turns out some clear patterns actually started to show up. Globally, most people kind of agreed on the big stuff. Like, yeah, we should save humans over pets. Makes sense. Save more lives instead of fewer. Duh. Save the young over the elderly. Okay. We also tend to favor saving people who follow the rules over jaywalkers. And this one might surprise you. We generally think the car should save pedestrians, even if it means sacrificing its own passengers.
But, and this is a big but, this is where things get really complicated. Once the researchers started sorting the data by culture, these huge differences popped up. For instance, in so-called Western countries, people tended to prefer inaction, like the car should just stay its course, no matter what. In Eastern cultures, saving law-abiders was a much bigger deal, but saving the young? Not as strong a preference. Then you look at Southern or Latin-based cultures, and you see a stronger preference for saving women or people with higher social status. So yeah, so much for finding one simple universal ethic to program into an AI. Okay, so programming life and death decisions is clearly a total minefield. But what about the everyday stuff? What about something like an AI's personality? Let's take a look at a really interesting case where an AI was designed on purpose to be, well, kind of difficult. Think cynical, detached, maybe even a little bit mean. Yeah, this actually happened with a custom AI persona called Monday GPT. And one person on Reddit, who said they worked in healthcare, put out this really serious warning. They were like, look, this thing's emotional detachment isn't just a funny quirk, it's a psychological minefield. They were worried it could just make someone's despair worse and cause some real harm, especially to people who are already vulnerable. But then, get this, in the exact same conversation, someone else chimes in with the total opposite take. This user said that the very same cynical, detached AI voice was therapeutic. They said it honestly helped them more than their last 5 years of therapy. So for them, it wasn't a minefield at all. It was a breakthrough. So how is that possible? How can the exact same AI be seen as both dangerous and life-changing? It really makes you wonder, right? It kind of suggests that the AI's personality isn't really a thing it has. It's something that happens in the conversation with us. Maybe it's not a personality at all. Maybe it's just a mirror, reflecting our own stuff right back at us. Okay, so its personality is a mirror. Fine. But can it at least understand us? Can it actually grasp the weight of a tough moral choice? Can it show something like real empathy for when we're struggling with these things, even if it can't, feel it? Well, a study with the perfect name, Crocodile Tears, looked at exactly this. Researchers gave AIs these tragic trade-offs, basically impossible choices between two really important values, like worker safety versus protecting the environment. Now, the AIs said all the right things. They said the choices were very difficult, they put on a little show of struggling with the decision, but when you look at what they actually did, they almost always just followed a simple rule: human safety first. There wasn't any real struggle. It was all a performance. And one of the researchers, David Kidd, he nailed it. He said, the chatbots are basically just masters of illusion. They say all the right things to make us believe they have this deep ethical sensitivity when they really don't. Their choices show it's all superficial. At the end of the day, as he says, they are, after all, just math. That empathy we think we're seeing, it's just a really convincing performance.
Okay, so this is getting kind of weird, isn't it? Personality is a mirror. Empathy is a performance. So what about the most basic thing we see these things do? You know, that long step-by-step chain of thought that it spits out before an answer? What if that's an illusion too?
Researchers just recently did this really startling experiment. They took a powerful AI and tried two different things. First was the normal way, which they called thinking. The AI writes out that long, complicated process before it gives you the answer. The second approach was called no thinking. They basically just told the AI, hey, skip all that thinking stuff and just give me the answer directly.
Now, you'd think that whole thinking process is absolutely essential to get the right answer, right? Well, here's the crazy part. When they gave both methods the same exact amount of computing power to work with, the same token budget, the no-thinking way was actually way better. On one math test, it got over 51% correct, while the one that thought it all out only got about 29%. I mean, how wild is that? The very process we assume is what makes it smart might actually just be getting in the way. In fact, the study found that this no-thinking method could get similar results but be up to 9 times faster. It seems that long chain of thought we see on the screen isn't just sometimes unnecessary, it can actually be a really inefficient way for the AI to get to the answer. It's almost like the thinking is just an elaborate and expensive show put on for us. So how is any of this possible? How can an AI fake personality, empathy, and even thinking so convincingly when none of it is really there? Well, the answer isn't some magical ghost in the machine. It's in the machine's actual design, a totally revolutionary architecture that pretty much changed the world.
It all goes back to 2017 and this groundbreaking paper with a great title, Attention is All You Need. It introduced something called the transformer architecture, and in just a few short years, that one idea became the engine behind pretty much every single advanced AI you use today.
So what the heck is a transformer? At its core, it's just a ridiculously powerful pattern-matching machine. It uses this clever trick called attention to figure out which words in a sentence are most important to each other. So in "the robot picked up the red ball," the attention mechanism knows that red is all about the ball, not the robot. That's it. Its entire job, its only goal is to get scarily good at one thing, predicting the next most likely word. It doesn't understand, it doesn't feel, it doesn't think, it just predicts. And what we're learning is that if you get good enough at predicting, you can create a pretty darn convincing illusion of all those other things.
So let's recap. We've got an AI whose morality depends on where you live. Its personality is just a mirror of you. Its empathy is a total performance. And even its thinking might just be a slow, inefficient show it puts on for us. And all of it, every last bit, is powered by a system that's just predicting the next word. The illusion is incredible, but it is an illusion. And maybe that's the final takeaway. Maybe the most interesting question isn't what's inside the AI, but what does our willingness to believe in the illusion say about us?